Greetings, UPstanders. Dr. O here. And as you, well, I know many people chose not to listen to it, but I listened to some of the Hegseth speech and Trump's speech as well to over 800 military generals that were flown in on taxpayers' dollars from across the world to hear what they call to be some type of pep talk. And quite honestly, the speech, especially starting with Hegseth, it was a white Christian male nationalist speech. Period. Bottom line. And I'm looking at some of the things I wrote down as he was talking. He talked about, and this is something Trump repeated as well, how they became the woke department, and because they started focusing on things relating to equality. He says that now we're not going to have any more identity months. We're not going to have any dudes in dresses, no DEI, and basic, and we're done with that ish, right? Just sitting there, cursing in front of them like it was all good. He says that we're no longer going to have promotions and have things like promoting people because they're the first and not the best, which is ignorant on its own, because you imply that just because somebody is the first at something, first woman to do something, first African American to do something, etc., that they're not also the best, right? And so he's basically saying anybody who is the first anything, first gay person, first black person, first Latino, first indigenous person, they automatically weren't qualified. They were just chosen because of DEI. And the ignorance is upsetting, but again, it's not surprising. And then I wrote down this other thing here. He literally says in front of these guys, if people mess with us, they're going to FAFO. Like, this is like some silly little frat kid talking in front of people. Like, look at my new toy. Like, look at my new whatever. Just like, it was so juvenile and ridiculous. But this is our military. This is our military. We're going to fight and focus on lethality and war fighting. Like, he can't give a talk about mentioning lethality. It was absolutely disgusting. But then he starts talking about, the standards are going to be the same whether you're a man or a man or woman. Then he says, I want you to treat this military like it would be how it would be if your son was in it. And he just kept saying, thinking about your son, and the standards your son would have. Not daughters. Your son, your son. And so then he talks about grooming standards, which will affect, African American soldiers as well. And it was just racist. It was sexist. It was homophobic. It was everything we expect from the Trump administration. And so Hegseth spent our tax dollars to do that and jeopardize safety and security issues at other bases around the world by having all the leadership gather in one place. And then, of course, Trump gets up. And I was hearing from military folks, and I was listening on other shows the night before, yesterday and other days before the speech. These military men, they are the best. And they're going to come and they're going to be stoic and they're not going to laugh. And Trump gets up there and all I heard is laughter. Laughing at this, laughing at that, this joke, that joke. Trump said, I gotta warm you, I gotta warm you all up, and so on and so forth. And maybe it didn't sound like 800 voices laughing, but I heard enough in there to make me feel like enough of these guys were going along with it, with all of his lies, all of his politics, all of his dumping on a former president, which you're not supposed to be doing. It was just another politicized speech in front of a branch that's not supposed to be politicized. But here we are. Here we are. Trump and Hegseth wanted to make sure that everybody knew that this was going to be run like a white Christian nationalist organization focused on men, focused on white men, I should say specifically. And they got their point across. And I'm sure that could have also happened in a Zoom meeting, but because of their arrogance, because of their hubris, they had to use their power and authority to bring everybody into the same space. And of course, Trump can't give up an opportunity to steal the spotlight, so of course he had to be there as well. This was disgusting. It was disgusting, but it does say where we are as a country. And I'm going to be interested to see what military recruitment looks like as it relates to what this president is doing. I'm interested to see what these generals are actually going to be doing in terms of how they respond, because I didn't see the room, but I'm assuming all of those generals are not in tip-top shape. And Hegseth said, y'all got to be in shape now. And they're hearing this from a man who is just, I'm thinking about Trump right now, a man who himself is out of shape, a man who did not serve in the military, who called, hunting for women during the Vietnam War his own personal Vietnam. And these are the guys they got to take orders to about readiness and lethality and being in shape and all of this other type of stuff. And then, of course, he lied about the 7 wars that he solved. And this is where we are. This is where we are. This is a country that can't even keep itself safe as it relates to mass shootings and the like. But here are Trump and Hegseth talking about we're going to be the best, and if you mess around with us, you're going to FAFO. And of course, Hegseth within like the first 5 minutes of the speech was promoting his own book. We have incompetent individuals who failed their way up talking about we're not going to have DEI, we're not going to have any type of set asides, we're not going to have any type of special programs. And everything that they did benefited from special programs. Hegseth's not qualified to run this department, the Department of Defense, which we'll call it because it's not the Department of War because Congress does not authorize that as a new name. But they wanted to make it clear, message received. Message received. I would hate to be somebody in the military nowadays, but some people are also loving it. Remember, we got white supremacists who are joining the military so they can get more weapons training and learn how to kill black and brown folks so they can get away with it. But whether Trump calls in the military to be on these streets or whether they leave there eventually and join the police force. We cannot stand for this. We cannot stand for this. We have to call it out. We have to speak up. And I know many people here have family members who may be in military yourself or have military blood in your background, and you should also be disgusted enough to speak out. We all know that when Truman integrated the military in the late 40s, it was one of the ways that African Americans were able to really join the middle class and get involved in other ways. They want to destroy all of that. That, like Trump said, that's when the military went woke, quote unquote. These trigger words are disgraceful, but yet here we are. So I know you probably didn't watch the speech, you didn't care for the speech, and you'll probably catch some snippets here and there. What are your thoughts? But more importantly, not just your thoughts about the speeches, whether you listen to them or not, but what about the thoughts about the way forward, given that Hegseth has made it clear about who they are and what they're going to be? What's the path forward? Let me know what you think. Hit that like, subscribe button. Feel free to share this. Help us get to 25,000 followers. And y'all, be safe out there. It is real in the field. Peace.